Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with authentic, heart-centered experts about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate personal and professional change. And this conversation is worth your while if you'd like to unlock your fullest potential. Because when we unlock our potential, we contribute to the world that we want to see, and it brings us greater fulfillment and greater joy. So when we unlock our potential, we can also then move into alignment with it. And when we do, we'll experience less stress, less resistance, and a lot more joy. And creative solutions are what's needed to solve the world's problems. So the sooner you have a fulfilling reason to get out of bed in the morning, the better you can show up for those people who deserve the best of you, and the better you can show up to make the unique ripples that you are here to make in the world. So I'm Linda Bucher. I'm a transformational speaker and a master certified life coach. And after living the life of a chameleon and feeling like a victim for 45 years, I finally discovered who I am. I connected with my passion and my purpose, and I reinvented my life to align with my true self. And I've become a happier, more confident, and more fulfilled person because of it. But most importantly, that transformation resulted in me confidently unleashing my gifts to the world. So now it's my honor and my privilege to help you do the same in your life because you have a big, rich, full life to lead, and you have important gifts to give to the world, and you have a splash to make. So today we are going to talk about making positive ripples by unlocking your fullest potential. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Kristen Toscano. She is a quantum human design specialist. Now, don't let that trip you up. I know that's like, what is that? Well, wait till you find out, because buckle in, because it's so cool. I've personally experienced this firsthand, and I think you're going to love it. Kristen guides people to finding greater confidence, greater peace, greater joy, and greater fulfillment by reconnecting with their authentic selves and by breaking free from the fears, the doubts, and the shoulds. So, hi, Kristen. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for having me here. Excited to be with you today.
Oh, awesome. So, can you tell us just a little bit more about what you do, who you serve, and how you're making these positive ripples in the world?
Sure. So I spent the first 20 years of my career as a physical therapist. And the way I look at it is at that point, I was helping people manage the physical manifestations of stress and burnout. And I kind of look at what I do now is taking a little more proactive approach. After I was a PT, I went down the path of functional medicine, looking at physical root causes. And I feel like what I do now is just more even those energetic root causes of what brings us pain and stress in our lives.
Beautiful. That is so great. Okay, so I'm going to let you tell your story in just a few seconds. So, all right, everybody, here's what we experience. We experience pressure. We got to prove ourselves. We've got to meet all the responsibilities. We've got societal expectations. We're trying to keep everybody else happy. We're juggling everything. And what happens is we get so busy and preoccupied with doing all that, which is, I'm going to say, because this is what I help people do, we're all trying to prove our worth. I can help you know your worth so you don't have to prove it to anybody or even yourself. But what happens, we're so busy that we don't trust what we know. We don't trust that our truth is within us and it's right there, accessible to us, if we could just listen. So I was moving in the wrong direction until I was 45. Like I mentioned, I was a chameleon, I was a victim, and my physical body was like I was manifesting horrible things in my body physically, which was basically my essential self's message to me that was just like, I am your GPS, and I've been asking you to make a turn for like 15 years and you are not listening. It's time to turn the F around right now. And so the physical manifestations that happened, my gallbladder stopped working. It was like at 24%. It was working after I had it tested. So I couldn't eat anything without being uncomfortable. I couldn't sleep for more than 15 minutes before I would wake up and have to move because my body was in pain. At work, I couldn't sit in a meeting for more than 5 minutes because my body hurt so bad. And then there was the self-sabotage that happened because I was not following my truth. So I was waking up later and later every day, and I was not getting to my desk by 8 o'clock like I was supposed to. It was like be like 8:50, 9:10, and no matter what I tried, my essential self was like, no, we're not going, don't make it, it's the wrong direction. So it's so amazing how our bodies will show us when we're going in the wrong direction, when we're not following our truth. So Kristen, I know you probably have a story that's similar as well. Before you heeded the call to like find this truth and started listening, what happened to you?
Yeah. So for me, as I said, I started out as a physical therapist, and I definitely got burnt out. I think partly because our healthcare system can be challenging to work in. But I was working in a clinic that didn't really align. It wasn't in integrity with what I felt we needed to do. We were trying to do PT-driven wellness, where we were supporting people beyond just injury recovery into that more holistic health picture. But the boss and I didn't agree on how to do that. And so about a month after being told, I don't want you to leave, come do more health coaching here, I was let go. And it was a shock to my identity. And I realized so much of my identity was wrapped up in my work. And so it was like, oh, well, who the heck am I if I'm not the best PT in this clinic? And so it sent me down a path of spiritual awakening, I guess I would call it. Just starting to explore, well, who am I outside of a PT who follows things logically? And I tried for a couple of years to force myself into that box. I did health coaching for a while, and then even went further with functional health coaching with the lab work and the supplements and what are you eating? And what I realized as I learned more about myself is my strengths and my gifts were helping people get to those underlying stressors in their lives that were contributing to the physical stuff. And I found that once I stopped trying to force myself into that box in my business got easier, work got easier. I started attracting clients I loved working with. And so for me, it was more, I think, a bit about my identity, listening to my inner guidance system, tapping into the messages from my own body and following what felt good.
Beautiful. So now you're helping clients who are like where I was, like when you're a physical therapist, now you understand that those clients were there, they were having physical manifestations of stress, that the stress that comes with not trusting who you are, not trusting your own truth, finding your essential self and moving in the direction that we're supposed to be moving towards discovering our truth, our purpose, etc. So let's talk about how we discover our truth. Okay. So we discover our truth in many ways. And what Kristen's going to share with us has been blowing my mind, because I just discovered it a few months ago. It has been blowing my mind. But how I do it. So it's certainly not linear when I'm working with my clients as a coach. However, what happens is at the very beginning, we have to get to know, who am I outside of roles and responsibilities and societal expectations. So we're trying to, because our identity gets stripped away every time that we have a big life change. We have a death and rebirth of our identity in some way, but the essential parts of us never change. So to discover who is that essential part, who am I outside of those roles and responsibilities? What helps me? Like when I'm losing time, what am I doing? What do I enjoy the most? What lights me up? Those are unique things. And the things that I enjoy, the real question is to dive a little deeper. Why do I enjoy them? Because the reason you and I both might enjoy the same thing, two different reasons. It's the reason that clues us in more to who am I. So I'm always helping my clients to discover who they are through a series of good questions. It's a more cerebral exercise, and also to know their worth. And I don't mean know it at a cerebral level. I mean know it at a cellular level. Oh my gosh, I am worthy. And it's not tied to a because. It's just the period goes after that. I am worthy. People don't recognize that they are worthy. They believe they're not worthy. They believe that they're damaged goods. They have a hole in their worthiness. And I help them to understand. I help them to prove it to themselves, actually, because you don't have to take my word for it, but I will help you prove it to yourself that you are 1,000 bazillion% worthy, and that worthiness is not negotiable. It's not degradable, and it's not earnable. It just is. So you don't have a worthiness problem. You have a perception problem. The perception of your worthiness is all that's messed up. So I'm always working people through that. Then we're moving on to unlocking your gifts. And by gifts, I mean your unique talents and abilities that come from your experience. And they also come from your true self, which Kristen's going to share a little bit more about in a few minutes. And so we are discovering all those gifts. Then they're pointing us towards a purpose. We can start to begin to ask that question. Why am I here? What's the why? That is my big why. Like, I'm here to help people to make a splash in the world that ripples positively. And why am I doing this? Same reason Kristen's doing what she's doing, and she can tell you about that. It's because I believe that this is the way to heal the world. If we were all in total alignment with our true selves, we can make a difference. We leave a beautiful legacy of positive change in the world. For our children, then they see this is what you do. This is how you do it. You find your truth, you align yourself, and you give your gifts. And this ripples. Everything we do ripples, but this makes positive ripples. So this is what we're doing. So then I'm helping my clients, once they get that answer, they go, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Then we got to align our focus and our direction. And that's how we make a splash. So that's the framework that I use. And I thought I had it all figured out. And then, boom, human design. What the heck is this? I do tell my clients often, I want you to learn about your cognitive style, because when you learn more about what's natural for you, you can let go of those expectations to be someone other than who you are. That's what happened when I discovered my human design. And it's complicated, but you didn't have to go there. I didn't have to dive deep for it to make a mind-blowing difference in my life. So, Kristen, I'm going to turn this over to you. Tell us about how human design clues us in to our truth. How do we discover our truth through human design?
Yeah, sure. So human design, one of the things I love it, because I love all those personality assessments too, but I always questioned, am I answering these the way I actually am or the way that I want to be? And what I love about human design is it's based on your birth date, time, and location. And it tells the story of who you're here to be. So when we look at the layers of the chart, we get insights into the role that we're here to play, how we make decisions that are right for us and keep us on our soul path. We get insights into the personality and how we interact with the world. And we get also insights into our purpose, where those patterns are going to show up that maybe are pulling us away from that. Where are those places we're here to be wise through a variety of experiences? And so we start to understand what's ours and what are we learning through our relationships.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Well, let's talk about it. So can you just tell us just in a nutshell, and then we'll dive in, what is type, strategy, and authority? Because those are that's the part that's blowing my mind without even diving any deeper than that. So
and that's a great place to start, because you can get a lot of very practical, tangible ways to apply and start paying attention in your life from these top layers. So your type gives you insights into the role that you're here to play. Some of us are here to be the builders and the doers. Some of us are here to be the guides, and we'll get into that more in a minute. But tied to our type is our strategy, and that's how we know what our next right step is. And that gets flavored, our decision-making gets flavored by our inner authority.
Okay, flavored. Okay, good. All right. So let's give some examples and talk into it. So and I know you have this available for our listeners, which is so great. So I typed in my information, and I am a projector. So I am here to be a guide, not to be a doer. Yet I spend way too much time doing. And then it doesn't work. I'll make a new website. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll create that. I'll create this. I'll create that. I'll talk to people about it. And it doesn't work because I'm not really here to do. But I didn't know that. I did know I was here to guide, but I didn't know it was mutually exclusive. I also recognized that I already knew this, but then to have it right in front of you, oh my God, I get this. I don't have consistent access to my energy. that's something else I learned by having by putting this information and learning more about my human design. And it's true. I will come out of the gate like gangbusters, and I work for 2 weeks straight, like woo. And then a month will happen. And I will procrastinate for an entire month. And I would do like busy work. I call it I'm either procrastinating or procrastinating, like procrastinate something, because I don't really have the energy available to do this big thing. So I have learned over the years how to honor my energy. Another thing that I discovered about my type, about being a guide, and about my energy is that, and I knew this too, I'm like, I know I'm kind of washed out here with the light here, but that's me. I'm like 500 watts all the time. I take other people's energy and I absorb it, and then I amplify it, and woo, comes back out. And that's a pretty big, pretty strong thing. And it serves me as a guide when I'm guiding. It doesn't serve me when I'm trying to do, because I can't use that to do. I can use that as a guide. I have so much energy when I guide. So it's fascinating to me. And then along with my type, and I'm going to let you talk about both of the types and this strategy. This was really great information. So my signature, what's natural for a projector is success. That's what's supposed to happen, is success. When I'm not feeling successful, I'm feeling bitter. Well, I learned through human design that's my compass. Like if you're feeling bitter, Linda, you got to make a turnaround. You got to turn around. There's your GPS again saying go the other direction, because I'm supposed to be feeling success. So that was huge. Bitterness is an indicator that I'm not in alignment with my truth. So can you talk a little bit more about the types, projector being one of them, and about the signatures that have to do with these types?
Yeah, for sure. So projector, you hit the nail on the head. You're here to be the guide. If you think of like a theater production, you're like the director. You don't have the sustainable energy to put on the show yourself, but you can hold the template for what's possible and guide others to bringing that performance, that idea to form. And so yes, when you're feeling bitter, two things to kind of check in on. One, your sense of self-worth, because as a projector, you're here to guide, but you're here to guide your people. And so your people are going to recognize your value if you see it but you need to recognize it in yourself first. So that sense of self-worth is so important, particularly for projectors. And right. The second piece is vitality. Have you burnt yourself out trying to be the builders and the doers of the world?
Right.
And so for projectors, like you will have this spurt of energy, like you mentioned, and you can get a lot done in a short period of time, but then you need rest. And it's not sitting on the couch watching Netflix, worrying about all the things you should be doing. It's like staying in those things that feel good to you, that bring you more energy.
Nice. Beautiful. Can you tell us more about the other types?
Yeah. So projectors make up about 20% of the population. About 9% of the population are manifestors. And they're here to get the ball rolling. Again, they don't have that sustainable energy to bring the idea to form themselves, but they get the ball rolling. They initiate others into action. And so they have this nonverbal internal creative flow that they follow. And their strategy is to inform. And so they need to inform the people that are going to be impacted by what they're initiating. This informing also allows them to stay in that creative flow, because they know once the flow gets disrupted, they have to wait for that pulse that now is the time to move back into action on it. And so the informing helps them just kind of set some boundaries that allows them to be there so that they're not getting disrupted, often by well-meaning people who feel their power and want to help. And for them, their signature is peace. And what shows up when they don't inform and that flow gets disrupted is anger.
Nice.
Then we have generator types, which make up about 37% of the population. And they are the builders and the doers. They're like the cast and crew. They their strategy is to respond. So something shows up in their outer world that their gut says, this is for me, or it's not for me. And it's a feeling in the body. It is that gut response. And for them, when they're in the right work, they have sustainable energy to follow through and do the thing and to become really masterful at whatever the right work is for them. And their signature is satisfaction. And when they're out of alignment, they can feel frustration. And that frustration can show up when they've said, to something their gut went, this isn't for me. Or they also may feel frustration as part of their learning process because they're here to become masterful. They make this leap in skill and then they hit a plateau. And on that plateau, they're rebuilding their energy. They're processing everything they just learned, really integrating that new skill. As they get closer to that next leap, that frustration can also show up. So just like generators are meant to respond, to move into action, they also are meant to respond to quit. They're not meant to quit out of frustration, because if they do, they never reach that mastery level.
Mm-hmm.
About 33% are called manifesting generators, and they're a combination of the generator type and the manifester type. So they're first and foremost meant to respond like the generator through that gut, but they have a second step. They also need to inform, because they also have to navigate that nonverbal internal creative flow. And their role is to speed up the process of bringing ideas to form, to really speed up linear time. And so that informing piece, one of the ways I'm a manifesting generator. And so that the importance of the informing piece became really clear to me one day when I was making dinner. I had a pot of pasta on this burner, another pot of pasta, gluten-free pasta over here. I had the sauce and the Italian sausage that I was browning. And it's that nonverbal creative flow. It's not verbal. It's this feeling of this is how it's going to go. And I remember right at the end, I had emptied the first pot into the colander, and my mom came into the kitchen and took the second pot. And I felt this anger in my body. It was like, and it was because that flow was disrupted. I had this feeling like, okay, I'm going to empty this, then I'm going to empty this. And this is how the process goes. And so that's where that informing piece for both the manifestors and the manifesting generators is so important. Because if I had just said, I'm going to be in the kitchen for the next half hour, I'll let you know when dinner's ready, it keeps me in my flow.
Okay.
And then the last 1% are reflectors, and their aura is totally open. They're taking in the energy of everyone else around them, and they're here to really be at the center of the community, reflecting back to us how well we're doing or not, kind of like the audience of the theater production. And so their signature is surprise when they're in alignment, because they just allow the surprises of life to show up, and they stay in that state of wonder and curiosity of what's going on in their community. And then they may feel disappointment because they see the potential for humanity. And so they get disappointed when they see others not living up to it. But their strategy is to wait for a 28-day, a full lunar cycle to make decisions. And sometimes life doesn't give them that much time to get clarity. And so that disappointment can come up also if they have to make decisions more quickly than meets their strategy, because they need that time to have different conversations and experience their truth in different energies throughout the month, because their energy is always changing based on who they're around.
Interesting. Wow. So these strategies, because I didn't mention mine, it's to wait for the invitation. I'm not that patient, which is why I just keep building something else and building something else and building something else. My significant other once told me, so it's like you had this shop where you made really great loaves of bread, and people are coming from far and wide to get your loaves of bread. And then all of a sudden you decide, oh, I'm going to make pretzels. I'm not making bread anymore. I'm making pretzels, and I just keep switching and switching because I don't have that patience. So following our strategy is not so easy, but the beginning is to understand what it is. And when I look back at it, every client I've ever had, every opportunity I've had in my business to partner or collaborate or to be a speaker, I've been invited. I didn't make a sale. And selling always felt yucky to me, and it feels yucky because it's not natural. It's not my truth. My truth is to wait for the invitation and just keep doing my thing, learning more, growing, becoming an expert while I'm waiting. So it is difficult sometimes to follow our strategies, but if we know what they are, we can ask every day, how am I not following my strategy? How am I following my not self? Like when am I feeling bitter about anything I'm doing? And if so, that means I'm probably not following my strategy. Would that be true to say?
Yeah. And really, with the waiting for the invitation, it's really about that recognition. It's about getting that recognition from the people that see your value and are ready for you to guide them, so that you're not just wasting your energy for people who aren't ready. And sometimes it will be a verbal, literal invitation, and sometimes it's like you staying in what you excites you, what, like you said, what you're an expert at, continuing to grow your expertise, and then seeing who's energetically leaning in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have explained. Someone shared this with me a long time ago, so I don't know whose model this is. I couldn't tell you, but I've explained to basically every client, and they're like, "Oh, that blows my mind." So I say, think of like a target, and has like concentric circles. And on the outside circle are about a third of the population. And these people don't get you and they don't really want to know you, even if they love you. And that's okay, no matter what you do. There's nothing that you can do that helps them to know you better or whatever. They're just not going to. It's just statistics. That's just it. And you can think of people that you're like, I never get that person. I love them. I like them. I hang out with them, but I don't really get where they're coming from. And that's okay. And then the next ring is the middle ring. And that's the people where maybe about, again, a third of the population or so. Sometimes they get you. Sometimes they really want what you have. And other times they don't. And again, these are people you love and they love you, right? Or some people that, are just outside of the love, family, friendship thing. And it's just statistics because it's no matter what you do, sometimes they're going to get it and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to want more and sometimes they're not. And then there's that inner circle. And the inner circle are the rest of the people who lean in. Maybe they don't even know you, but they lean in. They get you. They want what you have. They want more. Those are the people that, again, no matter what you do, it's natural. And those are the people that I know for me that I'm here to serve. And those are the people that each of us are here to really be around, because those are the people who are aligned with our truth. And they just energetically do lean in. And it's a beautiful thing. And to the extent we expend extraneous energy that, especially people like me, I don't have constant access to my energy, my vitality. If I spend time trying to convince, cajole, explain to those two outer circles, I am not only wasting my energy and using up my precious energy, I'm stealing it from that inner circle who wants it, is ready for it. So that was explained to me. It was called the 1/3 rule of tribes when it was explained to me. But it really opens up a lot of things for a lot of people. It's a beautiful tool.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like it allows us to let go of some of the meanings that we hold around, everyone has to like us or we have to be accepted by everybody. And going back to what we were talking about earlier about having to prove our value and all of these things that pull us off our path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's real quickly talk about authority, because that's another one of the top things that is not too complicated for us to understand when we do look at our human design. So authority is how we make decisions, right? So this is something before I even knew my human design. This was years ago. I like as a coach, I would say something to a client and I'd be like, I got to write that down. That was genius. I need to know that. Where did that come from? How do I know how to say that? Like I didn't formulate a thought. I felt like I channeled wisdom. It just would come. It always comes out. And as a speaker, that's why I can just talk on the cuff. I don't need to prep my stuff like, more than just a general outline. What comes out, I need to hear. And then I'm like, I look at my authority on my human design and it says, Linda, you're supposed to hear yourself talk and heed what you say. Everything you need to know, you're going to say. Don't be conditioned by other people. So I was like, oh my God, that's amazing because I've already experienced that. So can you talk a little bit more about authority?
Yeah. So your authority flavors how you use your strategy. So for you, waiting for the invitations, how you know which invitations to say yes to is you have to talk, like you said, talk it out. You need a sounding board, but you don't need advice. So it can be really helpful for people with mental projected authority, no authority, self-projected authority, are some of the ways that this will be written out, to talk and just hear themselves verbalize their truth. Then we have ego authority. And with ego authority, it's about the resources aligning to clue us into timing. So do we have the energy for it? Do we have the resources that we need to move into action on this thing right now? And that can be particularly for manifestor types. But some projectors will also have an ego type authority. Then we have sacral authority, which is our generators and our manifesting generators, and they follow that gut in the moment. They can trust it in the moment. About 50% of people have what's called emotional authority. And so this is the one that I find makes the most significant difference, because with emotional authority, you're riding this wave of emotional highs and lows. So it can be your mood, your energy. We have periods that are more outwardly expressive, and then periods that are more melancholic and more internally creative. And so for us, we need time to get clarity. Even if we have that gut, I need to make sure that stays an tomorrow and the next day, and that I actually have the energy to commit to whatever the action is that I want to move into. And so for emotional authority, it's just recognizing that you need time to get clarity. And that can be generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and manifestors can all have emotional authority. And then the last authority is splenic authority. And so splenic authority means you get this intuitive pulse that's subtle and in the moment that tells you now's the time to move into action. It's those things that we usually notice with hindsight, but the more we pay attention to them, the faster we can act on them. So for splenic authority, it's those things where, you're walking out the door, the sun is shining, and you get that pulse to grab the umbrella. And you're like, why do I need an umbrella? The sun is shining. And then you're out 3 hours later and it's downpouring. And you're like, oh, that's what that was about. That's that splenic pulse. Like, now's the time to do this. It's subtle. It's in the moment. It usually comes once.
Beautiful. Okay. That's a lot of information. It makes much more sense when you just look at your own chart, because the first thing I did is I found my own, I got my own and I went through it and I learned just those couple things. Like, what is my type? What is natural and not natural for me? What is my signature? What is my authority? What is my strategy? Learned all about that. Everything started to make a lot of sense. Then, of course, the next thing I was like, ooh, I wonder what my significant other is. I'm going to guess he's a generator. Yes, he is so a generator. And then I was with my best friend and I guessed she was a generator, but she had that splenic authority. And I mean, she's been my best friend since I was 12. And so I was like, oh, and so we were going through it together. I was showing her. So it's fascinating and it explains so much. So it's definitely something to do. So we're going to wrap it up. And I just want to say a couple of things, and I'll let Kristen just share a few things as well. So to unlock your fullest potential, You've got to be ready to know yourself. And human design will help you to understand more about who you are and who you are not, and how to show up in the world according to your truth. If you are working with me and you are ready to know yourself, I'm going to help you discover who you are as well, outside of those roles, responsibilities, expectations, and limiting beliefs that, were making you be who you thought you were supposed to be. But more especially, I will help you to know your worth, because that's huge. So you've got to be ready to know yourself. You've also got to be ready at some point to heed the call of your purpose. Now that is so scary, right? Like if I know my purpose, I'm going to probably have to do something about it. And I'm too exhausted. I don't have the capacity in my life. I'm not able to do that. So it's just better if I don't know. But that's not actually true. First of all, there's all limiting beliefs around that I would say. It's not actually true, because you're going to be, and Kristen will share this with you, you're going to be moving in towards your purpose. It's just like, that's why you're here. So you're going to learn the hard way, or you can go with it. So it's going to happen. And human design will help you with how you show up day to day. And when you follow your truth, when you follow what you learn through your human design, when you follow what you learn if you work with me, it will lead to the expression of your purpose. Okay. And then finally, to unlock your potential, you've got to be willing to remove all the obstacles that want to hold you back. I talked about the big one. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. Another obstacle. It's going to be too hard. I won't have the time. Who am I to do this big thing? So there's mindset obstacles. There's emotional obstacles. There's physical obstacles that happen, those physical manifestations of stress from when you're going in the wrong direction. So those are the things that we have to do to unlock your fullest potential. And so, Kristen, what can you add to that? And what are some things that people can do right now?
Yeah, I think the first thing you can do is get your human design chart. And you can do that right on my website. It's kristentoscano.com/start-here. And it will give you insights into your type strategy and authority. And it'll give you more information than that. But that's where I want you to start, because if you do nothing else but follow your strategy and authority, it's going to lead you to the next right thing. And the other thing I would add is that your purpose isn't really necessarily about what you do. It's who you are. It's who you show up as in the world. And it just oozes from you in every interaction. And so I would say, don't let the idea of your purpose being this big thing overwhelm you.
Beautiful. Very well said. Thank you so much. And I would say, when I got my human design chart and I looked at all of it and I read just those top things, that was plenty. That was enough to blow my mind. And then if I want to go deeper, I'm going to use you. You are the expert. You can help me go deeper into all those other things that I don't know what they mean. So everybody, when you get this, don't give up. Just like, look at these top things, your type, your signature, your inner authority. Just look at those. It's going to blow your mind. It's amazing. And then the other thing that you can do today is get on a call with me. It's complimentary. We'll talk for like 20 minutes. And we'll talk about the obstacles that want to hold you back, all the reasons why you're not where you want to be, or why you can't even get clear on where you want to be. So if life is feeling a little meh, or you're having trouble heeding the call because you know you're here for something more, you recognize you're supposed to be making ripples in the world, whether the world is within your family, within your community, or if you're meant to be Oprah and ripple on all over the planet, right? So you can talk with me. I would love to do that. And that's lindabucher.com/chat with Linda. So thank you, Kristen, for being on Conversations Worth Your While. I am so excited that you spent your time with us today, and I will put the link of how to get their human design just for free right in the show notes. And I would like to thank you, our audience members, our beautiful lifelong learners, for sharing your time with us today. And until next time, please subscribe and make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.